Hogan's book is as relevant now as it was when it came out, because let's face the facts. When you start getting 40 and 50 years old, your body isn't working faster than it used to, but your hands and arms still have some speed in it. The point of it is this: your body's going to tell you what you can do. And the beauty of Hogan's book is he wanted to do two things. He wanted to play top quality golf, and he wanted to get rid of a hook. And if you are a better golfer, there is one shot you hate to see, and it's a hook. And now understanding a little bit deeper of what Hogan did on the backswing, now you hear these wonderful things like, I can swing at it as hard as my body will let me, and the ball is not going to go left. And that is a blessing for players that are single-digit handicaps, because the shot that usually kills them at the end of the day is a hook in the woods.
Hi, this is Stuart Morgolis from Glen Mills, Pennsylvania, and I play golf at the highly rated Glen Mills Golf Course. Welcome to Golf Smarter number 823.
Today's episode is brought to you by Caldera Lab, makers of The Good. What PGA instructors discuss when they get together with PGA Master Professional Joe Hallett.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome back to the Golf Smarter Podcast, Joe.
Fred, it hasn't been as long this time, and it's nice to hear your voice again.
Oh, I'm not going to let you get away anymore. Forget it. You're just too valuable of an asset for all of us amateur golfers.
I appreciate you putting the ET on the end of that word, because I've heard that I'm too much of a something else at times in my life.
I'm trying to think. Amateur. I'm trying to remember why I would say ET in amateur golfers. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Or
the memory's going quickly.
Or the word asset, which I appreciate.
Okay, very good. So I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving and got to be with family and watch a bunch of TV.
I did. It was fun, and I think amongst from the football that's on, it's almost like is it Christmas Day or New Year's Day now that they have that one hockey match a year that's outdoors and on the ice? Well,
is that Christmas? Is that a Christmas?
I think
Day
it
thing?
Is Christmas, like the holiday classic. But now we're starting to equate Thanksgiving with the match and seeing some interesting golf on TV. Yeah.
I'm glad, because I think the match is a great event if they get the right people. And they on paper they had the right people this time with Brooks and Bryson. The tension that they've just been playing up in the press, and who knows, maybe Brooks honestly doesn't like Bryson. It sure comes across that way, but it could also be for television. Who knows?
Yeah, doesn't the PGA Tour have that thing for social media points and an extra bonus? I mean,
exactly.
I could learn to hate someone for an extra $500,000 and donate it to charity at the end of the year.
So what do you know about that thing? I heard about that randomly. It's like, wait, what are you talking about?
Well, I think you and I have the exact same amount of knowledge on it right now, because that's kind of it was. I've seen a couple things in the press. I've talked to a couple of reporters, but the details on said, social media presence or whatever seem to be a little vague and sketchy. But I do know there's something. It's just another way to get the interest in the PGA Tour and the game of golf out there. And, there's who knows what some guys might or might not do for, charity or a couple of extra things in their pocketbook. I'm not sure I want to see Rory McIlroy in a Speedo or anything, but, Brooks and Bryson arguing, yeah, I could go for that.
So what is it, though? I mean, did the PGA honestly incentivize social media for these guys?
I think because it's become such a presence, and my understanding from one of the reporters, and I'm getting it from the LPGA side, the reporters that maybe cover both of those venues. But, it's like, look, there are guys that do a great service for the PGA Tour, and they keep a very high profile internet or social media presence, and that is additional marketing. And it's some way we should be able to, give them a little bit of a benefit for helping our entire traveling roadshow, as it were, out. I mean, the guys that are out there, it's, if someone has a high presence on social media and all of a sudden they come out there, but maybe that day they're paired with, someone on the PGA Tour who this person's never seen, and you go, oh my gosh, I've never seen a swing that good, or I didn't know that player was left-handed, and I've always wondered what it should look like when you're playing left-handed. So there is a purpose for that, but I'd like to find out more about it myself.
Okay. Well, that was an incomplete passing of the buck.
So that's our assignment next time we talk. And Fred, the reason I say that is because I am one of those people, I'm not even sure I'm socially acceptable. So to have a presence on social media is awkward to begin with for me.
Oh my God. You are the best at self-deprecation, I got to tell you. There's nobody who comes even close.
Oh, hey, but let's talk about that match for just half a second.
Sure.
It wasn't the most exciting thing in the world, but just prior to us kind of gearing up, we were talking that one of the neat things is you get to see some places. Gosh, on Friday, I mean, some of the courses, the year I think that Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady played at Medalist, and you've seen Shadow Creek, and where they just played the Wynn Hotel, which is an amazing golf course. And at one point was the Desert Inn back in the Dean Martin and Bob Hope days. And I mean, we've seen some of these things with Seminole. Just for us to be able to get a glimpse of those places is just awesome. It just kind of, to me, it makes every golfer salivate.
Yeah. Have you ever played the course at the Wynn?
I have had the opportunity to play the course at the Wynn. And as crazy as this game of golf is, a gentleman named Brian Hawthorne, who was the pro there and worked for Mr. Wynn for many, many years, starting out at Shadow Creek and then going over to Cascada and then ending up at the Wynn. It's one of the most incredible experiences you ever have, because you take a step and you go, wow, this is beautiful. And the next step you go, why is this here? It shouldn't be here. I could see a gorgeous place like this, on a coast somewhere. I mean, there's 70 feet of elevation changes. There's 3 natural water features that are in there that were part of the course when it was the old Desert Inn. And it's just, when your caddy looks at you and says, try and start this out at the Stratosphere and work it towards Circus. Those aren't words you hear on another golf course anywhere.
When you play, most golf professionals that I speak to, they get into teaching mostly because they loved playing golf as a kid, and they're like, I want to keep playing golf, maybe be on the tour, and if I can't tour, I'm going to teach. But then they get into teaching and they get into the business of working around golf, and they don't get to play much golf.
Right.
Right.
I've always said, if you really want to play a lot of golf, get into the insurance business. That's your better avenue than just to get into. It
makes a lot of sense.
And literally, especially if the neatest thing about this golf business, and we've had some great conversations in the past about the pathways of young apprentice and associate professionals and becoming PGA professionals. In so much of a way, I'm going to say it's akin to a business school or even almost a med school. You go and you kind of take your prerequisites, but as you go on, everybody in golf starts to find a niche. And that's where your time for playing starts to take a little bit of a back seat, because you found a new love and it keeps you around the game. Mine happened to be teaching. Some people literally are way more, they're all about the equipment and club fitting and club building. And you've got others who are, just kind of, believe it or not, they're completely into inventory. And, if they weren't in the golf business, they'd have opened their own clothing shop. Yet it always keeps you around the game. And that's the coolest part about our business, is how you get into it and then you start to find your niche. And that niche doesn't take away from your playing. It just gets filled with your passion for the part of this business that you're doing.
How often do you get to play?
Well, I would say on the average, I probably play 2 or 3 times a month, and I have a group of distinguished gentlemen. At least that's what they call themselves. They don't look too distinguished at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning, but they're a group of distinguished gentlemen, and we all carry our Sunday bags, and we decide as a team, we'll play 6 holes as a scramble, 6 holes best ball and 6 holes alternate shot. And, then it's kind of like, and we'll play out of each other's bags. I'll carry the even numbered clubs and John will carry the odd numbered clubs. And the only tough one is when you have a left-handed partner and you're right-handed. That one doesn't work out too good. Then you got to learn to hit some soft shots or maybe hit some shots harder than you want to. But I get out there and play, and it's as you know so much about this game, it is a great sport, obviously. It's a great way to reconnect with the outdoors. It's a great way to put yourself in the feeling when you're teaching people and you go, oh, this is that shot, and all of a sudden you start tinkering and testing things out and you go, this is that shot I have more and more people asking me about, and it could just be a situation on your particular golf course, but all of a sudden you start putting your wheels start turning and go, what if we learned to do it this way? What if we learned to hit this shot with our feet much closer together? Would that help the result? So there's always a lot of tinkering going on, but if you don't get out to the field of battle, it's kind of hard to relate to students. And with that question, if I may, Fred, I know you and I chatted about a couple of things we wanted to cover, but this is almost a perfect segue into, I got to spend time at the Golf Magazine Top 100 Summit, and I am lucky enough to call a gentleman named Rick Sessinghouse a very good friend. And for those who may not know who Rick is, he happens to teach a pretty talented young man named Colin Mawakara. And he's an interesting individual because he actually not only is a golf professional, he has a degree in applied psychology. And by his estimation, he spoke to our group and he talks about the mental flow and the things that Colin has. But he said if he had to kind of tag a number to it, he felt like about 70% of Colin's instruction took place on the golf course rather than the practice range.
I'm going to stop you just for a second because we're going to take a time out. And I should tell you, Rick was on the show a couple weeks ago. We know who Rick Sessinghouse is.
Oh my! You're never going to meet a nicer gentleman. And,
he was awesome.
No one deserves the success that they have more than those two.
Oh, that's great to hear. All right, let's take a time out. We'll be back. We'll continue this conversation with our buddy Joe Hallett. This episode is brought to you by Caldera Lab, makers of The Good. I'd like to thank you for checking out calderalab.com/golfsmarter and taking advantage of their exclusive Golf Smarter discount. I also like to thank Caldera Lab for sponsoring Golf Smarter and even coming back a second time to sponsor us because I really like this product. Now, if you missed the last announcement, then you aren't aware that when you check out with the code GolfSmarter, you'll receive 30% off your first order. That alone should be reason you investigate this product. But more importantly, I'd highly suggest you get a 1-ounce bottle of the good and try a single droppers full each night after you wash up for bed and see the incredible results you'll get while making your skin look smoother and younger. Don't be one of those guys who dips into your wife's beauty products. This year, make a commitment to treating your own skin with some TLC. All of the Caldera Lab products are plant-based and scientifically proven. They believe in their products so much, as do I, that they're offering you a risk-free 60-day money-back guarantee. If you don't see results, you'll get your money back. Want to see my results? There's some before and after photos of me just after using 1 ounce of nightly use of the good at calderalab.com/golfsmarter. Remember, GolfSmarter listeners get 30% off your first order. That's their biggest sale of the year, so do it now. Go to calderalab.com/golfsmarter, and when you check out, use the code GolfSmarter. One word, GolfSmarter at checkout. That's Caldera Lab, calderalab.com/golfsmarter, and use that checkout code now for 30% off your first order. Joe, I definitely want to talk more about this Golf Magazine Top 100 Summit, but I gotta step back a second on you playing 2 to 3 times a month with your buddies. Are all your guys that you play with these couple times a month, are they all PGA teaching professionals or accomplished players? Okay, are they all accomplished players?
They are all over. You know what? That's the best question to tee it up with, because they are not all PGA teaching professionals. They are not all PGA professionals. They are not all accomplished players. They are all over the map.
Okay.
and that's one of the greatest things to think, how in the world did Fred make 4 on that hole? I never saw him after his tee shot. That's impossible. And you think, oh my God, he holed out a 20-yard shot from the fairway. But those are the great things about this game that just, it's great to get out there and put yourself in amongst players of all levels to find out and look and see it. You know, everybody at each level has a little bit of confidence. Some people could be with their 5-wood from 120 yards. You never know. And that's the coolest thing, to be able to take those keys and what makes that person perform? What makes that person perform? And inside all that, there's a little gem that you can help players of every level in the game, including the best in the world.
And in your group that are all over the map, do you have any guys that are like the rules dictators, or are you guys, don't worry about it. Yeah, pick it up. But, no, you have to put that one out. Are you guys really strict on that stuff, or is it just, how do you play?
Fred, you know I'm based in Nashville, Tennessee, which someone would tell you that it does have warm weather, but I'll be darned if these guys don't play winter rules all year long. This is very, very funny, because I've seen this done so many different ways, but they call it the circle of friendship. Yeah. And literally it is at the beginning tee, they pick someone's putter and they go, this is the circle of friendship today. Oh. You put the head of the putter in the hole, and, some guys, in the old days, you're just hoping that, you threw the tee down and you pointed over at Bob, and you're like, oh, Bob's got the long putter, man. We're two-putting everything today. But so, yes, they do that, and it's for the fun of the game. And if you really want to have some fun afterwards, you can go to the putting green and putt those doggone things. But yeah, the coolest part about this is we all walk. It's generally 2 foursomes, sometimes 3 foursomes. Usually the first 2 or 3 tee times of the day. And I can tell you that on a day where we might have hit an extra tee shot on a hole, we might have goofed around, and oh my gosh, give me that putt back. That's absolutely horrible. Those type things that we all do.
Great.
You tee off at 7, we are in by 10:40 and 10:45, and we haven't run. We've goofed around. We've had a great time, and we're scratching our heads going, what in the world takes 5 hours out here? We can't figure out what it is.
Oh, interesting.
And I know from the facility standpoint, the one thing you want is your first groups that go out, you want them to be fast. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you go to a golf course, and you travel to play golf, you travel and get to play golf because you travel for your work. What do you see on a golf course? What stands out to you? What do you recognize or remember or search out? I'm asking too many questions at once. Let me start with, what do you recognize on a golf course?
The ones you really, really enjoy playing, the word fairness off the tee. Fairness off the tee keeps coming up, and I will, if it's okay to throw it in here. You did ask whether I get together. Well, once a year, I have a group of 3 other professionals that we are part of the PGA faculty, and we get together and we have our own, I don't know what you would call it, our own custom debriefing or state of the state, and we find somewhere and we go play golf for 3 days. And we had the opportunity probably about a month ago to go to Branson, Missouri, and play the compound that is owned by the Bass Pro Shop guy. And there's a Core Crenshaw course, There is a brand new Tiger Woods golf course out there called Paynes Valley. And you ask about that. And the one thing, I've had the opportunity to play Blue Jack also over in Houston. And the one thing that you can see that Tiger does in his designs is he makes it very fair off the tee. You're going to be able to find your ball after you hit it.
Nice.
And that's a big thing in keeping play going. Mm-hmm. And, and there's no, as you can imagine, the hole gets progressively tougher after that shot. But that's, if there's a thing that stands out, you could trick it up so much off the tee that you're like, good Lord, it's the first hole. Can't you wait till number 7 until I get to this thing?
Wow.
But if
you remember
yeah.
details, you can walk through a course that you played 2-3 years ago, and you can tell me every hole, every shot. Could you do that?
Oh,
are you one of those guys?
Yeah, I am, and I don't understand that. That's a sickness. I'm not.
You're a
savant. But I think a lot of golfers are affiliated with that. I had an opportunity that one of my old college teammates was in town. We hadn't seen each other in about 20 years. And he recounted the first time we ever played a qualifying round at Furman University. He said, yeah, you knocked it about a foot on the first hole, tapped it in. The second hole, you par 5, you hit the green in 2, lipped out for eagle, tapped that in. And then the third hole, you promptly piped it into the woods. He goes, I was kind of scared until we got to the third hole that college golf was out of my reach. I'm like, how do you remember these things,
wow.
Dave? But that's part of that reconnecting with nature. And when they talk about things touching and even from a coaching standpoint, and we mentioned Rick Sessinghouse, and that's one of his other big keys, things that touch an emotional standpoint. Maybe it was a sound of a shot you hit, or maybe it's how still everything was, or how the ball soared through the air. And we all can think of songs and remember exactly where we were when that happened. And in a way, golf has some of that, where you're like, oh my gosh, I totally remember that. I was with my friend James, and the wind was blowing, and neither one of us thought we'd reach the green, and gosh, we knocked it up there close. And that all enveloping sensory perception it's just that's a great part of this game.
Oh, amazing. Wow. So the Golf Magazine Top 100 Summit, I was reading about it recently, and your name popped out, and I'm like, okay, I need to know more about this. What is it? What did you do? Let's go over this.
Well, when many years ago, when I was lucky enough to become part of this group, and they kind of started to rekindle a summit of the Golf Magazine Top 100 Teachers, and they've done a really bang-up job of starting to turn this less into a summit and more of presentation and think tanks. And the neatest thing I can say is this particular group of top 100 teachers, a lot of times you fight egos, and, you step into things, and all of a sudden, well, I'm not going to tell you what I do. That's for me, and that's why I get paid more than you. And that's, this group, and I think that's part of their vetting process, is one that it's, you sit down, and you might sit down with somebody that, you could sit down with a David Ledbetter or a Butch Harmon, and you don't know them, but they already know you. And when you realize that that's the case, and it isn't so much about, can you tell me what you did with Tiger? Can you tell me what you did with that? The questions that come out are, how do you deal with a college kid who's hit a wall? He was all-star in high school. He's got to college, and now he's just hit a wall. And you have somebody who you've looked at and you've mentored, and yet they're asking you that question. And so the entire meeting becomes one of sitting with different groups and all the breaks, and just kind of really, even if you want to toss it out like table topics, but that isn't a forced exercise. It's things that, someone says, all right, what's the newest thing you're doing teaching that you were doing 20 years ago that, everybody in the mainstay said, oh, that's not valid anymore. And it's, I don't mean keep your head down, but where I'm going with that. Like, Harvey Phoenix said, the grip is the most important part of the swing. Well, Now we're worried about ground forces and everything else. And as one noted instructor said, if you don't have a good handle on the club and you put force into your swing, you got a problem. He has a good point. So he says that's how important, especially as hard as kids are swinging at it today. Gosh, just some great questions. Bryson DeChambeau he did a live Zoom with us. And one of the questions that was asked to Bryson was, when you're in a round of golf, how often do you change golf balls? And he said, every 3 holes.
Wow.
Every 3 holes. And it didn't matter. It did not matter whether the ball was hit improperly or properly. He changes every 3 holes. And all of a sudden, then there was another topic that came up, and we started talking about, look at the way these pros all over the world are hitting the golf ball now. Not only that, look at the way that these college kids are hitting the ball and hitting at 300 and 320. When they test these golf balls, that machine they put it on, they're not testing it for a guy that's hitting at 300 or 320. They're testing it for you and I, who hit at 240 to maybe 260. And you got to think that golf ball, when you add another 100 yards and probably another 20 miles per hour onto the swing, that golf ball is going to wear out a little differently than it is on somebody like you or I. I might be able to get 5 rounds instead of 3 holes out of mine.
But are they actually playing the same ball we are?
Yes, but I will tell you, in the old days, that is, Fred, that is an exact question that was asked, because in the old days, you could tell when you went out on tour, you were like, how come this Black Max Fly has a dot over the eye and a dot next to the end? And they go, oh, I don't know. Why is that? And I go, you can look at a tour plane and go, that's one of our balls. That's a higher compression ball. Because they used to have 80 compression, 90 compression, 100 compression. And then they had a tour ball, which was, I don't know how you get more compression than 100. It's kind of like shampoo and conditioner. They both can't be in the same bottle, okay? That doesn't fit. You can't have 101 compression, but you can run those through and make sure that every ball that's going to that player is at either 99.5 or 100, where if you just don't check them that accurately. So the balls that the tour players are getting, like the clubs, have been gone over with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that when they pull one ball out, they're getting the same ball that they just played with.
I'm going to take another time out. We'll be right back. Did you guys get a sense if Bryson was changing balls every 3 holes because of his, or I'm not even going to accuse him of having OCD. Is it because he's really doing damage to the ball by hitting it that hard?
Fred, I have the best story for you.
Awesome.
I totally have the best story. And this was, amongst other things that we learned, the second day, had a chance to have a gentleman, Bernie Najar, who is up at Caves Valley, who has taught a gentleman named Kyle Berkshire.
Sure.
Since Kyle was about, 12 years old. I mean, they chronicled their whole journey all the way up to, and this is his second or third long drive championship he won this past season. But he started telling a story, and he said, all right, he said, I know you all talked to Bryson yesterday, and he said, I know that Bryson is a little tough on Cobra with their drivers. And he said, I already know he let that out of the bag, so I don't feel bad about bringing that topic up. He said, but Bryson and I are both sponsored by Cobra. And he said, when Bryson qualified for the Remax Long Drive Championship, Cobra sent out 25 drivers. He said, Bryson used the same driver the entire contest. He said, when I hit my winning drive, I was down to one backup driver. I had cracked the heads on 22 of the other drivers they sent.
Whoa.
And everybody just sat there and was like, Bryson's not going at it easy. I mean, he's swinging as hard as he can on that. And then all of a sudden you realize, okay, this guy cracked 22 heads, and Bryson said, so to tell you that he and I may go at the ball a little bit differently, that's probably the best way to explain it.
When he says crack the head, does that mean not that the shaft broke, but the face of the club?
Yes. So the face will end up having, sometimes it's a pretty big crack and sometimes it's a hairline crack. But one of the ways that club responds so well is they make that face so thin so they can make they can put all the perimeter weighting and adjust all the weights, and they want a very, a light club that those guys can swing as fast as humanly possible. And, you shave that off and, it could be an extra 10 miles an hour, but that apparently is the breaking point of that driver. And, I was just, at one point he was hitting balls inside into a net, and I believe his ball speed on one was 209. I think I have it, and the drive was 418 yards. And John Duggan from the Philadelphia area raised his hand and he said, "Do you have a question?" He said, "No, I have a comment." He said, "I want you to know your golf ball is going faster than my Porsche."
So what other topics do you guys, how long was the summit, first of all?
So it was 2 days.
Okay.
And they run everything. I kept it in front of me here, the kind of our schedule of events. And, the opening night we came in and we had a great conversation with Sean Foley and Claude Harmon III.
Wow.
And it was just great. It's kind of everything. And it's all the things, but it was so inviting to everybody else in the room. It's like, look, we're all in the same boat. We're not going to come up and just talk to you about what we do. We want to talk about what are the things we're seeing over and over. And so that's kind of a good way to kind of roll in. And we had Justin Parsons there the next day, who's been working with Louis Oosthuizen and obviously done wonders for his game. And, the funniest part is he stood up there and he says, "Guys, look, here's the way he came to me. Any of us could have fixed this." But he goes, "This is what happens with players that highest level, that their overall technique starts to slide a little bit, but they're so adept and so good around the greens that they can kind of keep scoring the way they are until eventually their overall swing starts to head them back." So he, part of his talk was about our job as a full swing technician is to really keep an eye on the measurements of what the ball's doing, and maybe that's TrackMan, but also where the swing is going, how the body's working, and to see maybe when all of a sudden we're going in a wrong path. Because a lot of times those players at the highest levels, Fred, they don't know that. They go, "I didn't hit it that good today, but I shot 67. Well, to me, I got to hit it really good to shoot 67. I got to throw a hole in one on there on the hole. But the players at that level, so to be able to, as he said, here's a gentleman who came to me who has great success, and he just came to me at the perfect time where his swing really couldn't get much more out of sequence and offline. And everything he did from that point forward was moving up. So, kind of, we went from there, and then we talked, I think Matt Killen talked a little bit about practice productivity, and kind of a lot like you hear like Cameron McCormick do, or a James Seekman. It's okay to go out and hit balls, but you have to have some sort of productive way to practice and get something out of it rather than just saying I exercise and I practice. If you look at
practice with a purpose.
Exactly. If you look at Eric Alpenfels and Bob Christine and the stuff they put together for the PGA education and all of our members, you go out, you practice something, you test it. If it doesn't work, you look back and you see if anything needs to be adjusted. If it does, you practice that and you go out and you retest. And it's a cycle you have to keep following. And, that's one of the biggest things. You get a lot of instructors together and they're always like, okay, what kind of game do you play with your players here? What about a guy that's putting bad in the 10 to 20 foot range? What do you do? So Matt shared a lot of that, and that facilitated a lot of other discussion about guys that really make that part of their overall MO as an instructor, especially Mike Bender is another guy. He has you do things that are so much harder in golf. By the time you get in pressure on the golf course, it's the easiest thing you've ever done in your life, because you don't have to do the drill with one eye closed, standing on one leg. You can just grip it with both hands and hit it. And then we had Bryson DeChambeau and probably a gentleman I would imagine who has been on your Golf Smarter podcast, Scott Fawcett, who developed a thing, Decade and Birdie Fire, and it's really good. So we saw that, and that's using stats to make smarter decisions on the golf course. And on the other end of that, we've got GameForge, which is using stats to help you practice smarter. And those two things really tied in. And so, yeah, it's kind of that full day. And then you had a lot of the science about, what is it that a tour player does that an almost tour player isn't doing. And now you're talking about these little things of, they're applying more pressure to the ground by about 10 pounds than this person is, and this person their swing is shorter. And all of us are trying to figure out, how can we take those finite measurements and say, look, Tiger Woods played his best golf when his swing was short of parallel. You can look at all those, and now you look at him coming back, and his comeback's probably going to be pretty good because he's swinging within himself and it's short of parallel. And he won a lot of golf tournaments, and it wasn't 3/4. It was kind of in between there. Let's call it 7/8, Fred.
And let's define short of parallel to make sure that we're all on the same page here.
Well, we're going to assume that John Daly was not parallel. John Daly's club was so far around his head that it was pointing back at the ground, but parallel would be that little position that the golfers always call, it looks like the clothesline. The shaft of the club is just perfectly parallel to the ground and perfectly on line behind your head, and just a little bit short. The shaft of the club and the club head are kind of pointing up towards the sky a little bit.
Yeah, parallel to the ground.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So are you guys talking about, are you enamored with, this person works with a pro, this person works with a pro, and you guys focus on the low handicap, or are you talking about golf instruction in general, where most of your students, I would assume, are not scratch golfers?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Almost. And that's kind of the ebb and flow throughout the day. Is you get someone up there who goes, this is great. He teaches Louis Oosthuizen.
Yeah. And
Bernie Najar comes up and shows literally a photograph and says, now I've gotten to teach this, but this is the guy I teach every day. And it looks so much like a Mayan ruin architectural or archaeological dig. And he said, what would you think of this guy's wedge game? And there must be 30 divots that are 5 or 6 inches deep, it looks like in this picture, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody says, oh my gosh, it needs some work. And then Bernie smiles and he goes, well, we hadn't got to the wedges yet. Those were his 3-woods.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you go, this is my job, is to relate to you. How do we help this guy with the things we learn from this guy? And that's really the truth, because there are some things that every person who presented was able to present and go, look at that. Not everybody performs at this level, but you can help other people perform at a better level if they understand certain things. And it isn't necessarily about a method, but they always, they'll say things like, they talked about where the golf ball was being hit. And that was really deep stuff. Is it hit directly in the back? Is it hit inside, or is it hit outside? And which one of those actually makes the ball go left and right? And, now you're kind of getting into these things, and swing speed. How do you train to swing the club faster? How do you take John Smith, who is a 45-year-old golfer who's not going to go to the gym? How do you get him to swing faster without hurting himself and making a difference when he hits it? And so all of those things become very, very interesting, but it's almost a requirement of your presentation. Is like, all right, we get you work with a great player, but tell us how we fix John Smith, who's taking huge divots with this 3-wood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. I need to break that down, but I'm going to take another time out, and will not let you go. We'll be back right after this. So I have to believe that early on in golf instruction, that when video was introduced, to be able to take video of your student, and then you would compare it to a pro, say, oh, look at your swing. Now look what Tiger does, right? And you're doing a side-by-side comparison there. That was a big jump in helping in golf instruction. And then take it to the next level. I would think that metrics, with all the TrackMan statistics that you're getting, being able to compare things makes it even easier to show a student how they compare to a pro, which I don't know if there's an advantage for an amateur to look at a pro because they're never going to get there. Does in fact making it easier to compare and to teach on a, am I asking a question here? Do you follow where I'm going with this? I'm sorry.
Fred, I've already had 2 shots. I've already had 2 shots of whiskey trying to come up with an answer for what you're asking.
First thing Monday morning. What can I do?
No, there is, because so many, and boy, did I ever have just, sometimes we learn so much more from our students. And I'm going to tell you, every PGA professional who's out there who is learning how to teach, he has had one of those experiences as he or she is just starting to teaching. And I had one very, very early on in my teaching career. And I was all excited. I had the computer coach and there was Tiger, and I put up John McLeod next to him. And John looked at me and he goes, I'm going to give you a little hint here, big boy. I ain't Tiger.
Right.
I kind of went, you got a good point there.
Yeah.
So even when you look at the pros, a more seasoned instructor is always going to start to say, let's just pay attention to where the golf club goes. Let's forget the guy that's holding it. Is the club going around behind you? Is it going up over you? Or is it going over your shoulder? Let's see. Is it outside? Is it inside? When you start looking at those things, but between that and the metrics, and now you look and you kind of go, man, okay, this is Tiger's swing speed, or this is DJ's swing speed. This is his vertical approach or his horizontal approach angle to the ball, or his vertical approach angle to the ball. The biggest thing we can do as instructors right now, and I know just like the guys I play with are of all ability levels, I know you, because I know fellow professionals that listen to the podcast, and I think they would agree 100% with this. The biggest thing we can do as instructors, when we look at that data or that video, is to find, first of all, is the student we're looking at anywhere close to center, whatever that means? Or are they so far in the opposite direction and continuing to go the other direction, we need to stop them immediately? Do you understand what I'm saying? That, if all of a sudden you read in the latest issue of, Golfer's Journal, got to swing the club back on the inside. Well, if the club is now, going back and it's below the height of your rump, that's too much to the inside. So, video-wise or number-wise, you look and you go, how close are they to center? If they're pretty close to center or somewhere normal, how can we get that measurement or that video and go, let's see if we can make the club go just a little more over your shoulder. Let's see what that does for us. It doesn't have to be where Tiger or DJ. Let's see if the back of your left wrist, it doesn't have to look like DJ's that's kind of, bent under a little bit, but yours is kind of bent the opposite direction. Let's see if we can make the back of your left wrist at the top look a little bit straighter. So our job is to use those examples to go, you don't have to be like this, but you're so far the other direction that there's not much worse golf that can be played on your part. So if we can get you back to something that's a little more centered, now we're never going to get there, but this would be one example. Here's where you are. My job is, how do I start changing a few things? And then we can measure it and go, I'll be darned, look at that. Your driver's flying higher now, and you got 8 more yards. Isn't that fantastic? That's one less club into the green. So that advent, and it's funny that you say that, we had a very interesting presentation, and I believe it's called Sports AI or Sportsbox AI, and I'm sorry I don't have the actual name in front of me, but there's a company out there that has figured out a way to take 2D video. So Fred, if I went...
Oops, lost you. Uh-oh. This week on Golf Smarter Mulligans, episode 139, we meet Scott Seiferlein from GrandRapidsGolfLesson.com, who has some great suggestions on how to get new players hooked on playing golf. What I find so interesting about this conversation is that it was recorded in 2010, yet here we are today with more new golfers discovering the game we love than we have in a very long time. And here's a great way to get them really psyched up.
The game of golf should be played to a score of 5 or better on every hole as an average. And in order to do that, the new golfer needs to be able to get on or near the green in just 2 shots, because they're typically going to take anywhere from at least 2, if not 3 or 4 putts. And we want them to score 5 or better right away, because it's not very fun to score 10 or 12 on a hole. We use a graduation system so that once they score a 5 or better from 50 yards, then they can graduate 25 yards, so they tee off at the 75-yard marker on the next hole. And that gives them some motivation, gives them an award for scoring 5 or better. They get to graduate to a farther back tee box. And then once they can score 5 or better from 75, then they can go to 100, and it keeps going. And I find oftentimes when I do these in junior camps, these kids are graduating to the 300-yard marker within the week. So they actually progress quite quickly.
That's episode 139 featuring Scott Seiferlein on Golf Smarter Mulligans, being released this Friday. Now, the Golf Smarter Mulligans podcast are the earlier episodes of Golf Smarter that are just no longer available on any podcast app, but they still clearly offer relevant information to all golfers today. We're now providing you with 2 Golf Smarter episodes each week. Please write a review, subscribe, and follow both of our golf podcasts and all the shows from Smarter Podcast so that you can download or stream the brand new episode when it becomes available on your favorite listening device. There we go. Wow.
All righty, Fred, are you there?
I am here, and I apologize for that. I don't know what happened.
No.
Okay, so
it's all good. Where was we?
You were in the middle of a sentence. You said you were talking about a company you think called Sports AI, and you said they take a 2D image, and then we lost you.
Got it. We can pick it right back up there if you want.
Go for it.
So amongst all that we've, and us as professionals, we're kind of still learning and getting a niche for just basic video, which I believe in some other arenas is called 2D video. But there was a company that was there, and it was called Sportsbox AI. And what they have figured out is they figured out a way that I can go walk out there and take a video of Fred hitting a golf shot, and I can upload it to my cloud. And when it comes back, there's Fred in 3D. Now, not that you weren't in 3D, but what that means is I can kind of use my fingers on my iPhone, and I can start moving you around, and I can look at you from face on or down the side. I can spin you around and look at from behind you. I can look overhead. I can look way out in front, like 20 yards out in front, and I can even go underneath and see what your swing looks like as though I'm underneath the ground looking up at you. And, in the easiest way to say it is that is some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of guys who are sitting around looking at each other going, you know what the swing's supposed to look like from 10 feet overhead? I've never seen one from there.
Oh, interesting.
So in a way, this is really the first affordable way that this has come out. There's the gear systems, and TaylorMade had the mat system. There's AMM 3D. These are systems that can run anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000. But the interesting part is when Sportsbox presented this, they had some of those developers of those particular technologies, and unequivocally, they all said, this is the closest thing we've seen to what we've done. And it's not going to be a competitor, but we're willing to say, you know what, you're going to get 95% of what we can produce on 3D through this new app that's coming out. And it'll be, in a way, Fred, maybe it's easier. Maybe we can spot some things in the swing looking from face on that we couldn't see from the other side. So many times you go, oh, you see how when you follow through, your hands have disappeared, so you're exiting left, and you go, well, I can't see my hands. Well, that's because they exited left. How do I know? I can't see them, but if you're looking from the front, you can follow and go, now I see, oh, and I get it too. the butt end of the club isn't supposed to be pointing to the ground. It's supposed to keep pointing at my left belt loop over there. Now I see what you're talking about. So I have a feeling as instructors, we're going to have an ability with this new technology to maybe learn along with our students, and again, find, some cooler ways for people to get the picture properly. But
Wow.
yeah, 3D is an interesting thing.
Yeah, I think this is with these LiDAR, LIDAR, LiDAR cameras that they're starting to put on phones and the tablets that allow you to see, allow you to use AI and to put images there and give you that 3D look. So, and that's enough technical for you. So
now I want to go to Best Buy.
Yeah, right. Don't. So with all this technology changing the way you're teaching, and the with the LiDAR images and 3D and TrackMan with all the metrics and the ball speed and the spin and all this stuff, how relevant is it to a group of top 100 golf professionals, teaching professionals? How relevant is Hogan's book?
Oh my gosh, that was Fred, we had two great table topics of discussions, and the relevance of Hogan's book is becoming, gosh, this is just the coolest business to be in, because when you get enough gray hairs and you're as old as I am, you can see the waves of it coming around. But there's a notice that, if we start talking very technical in the swing and we look at Dustin Johnson, he's got this crazy left wrist position at the top, and all these guys that really keep the face shut, as it were, a little bit, or a little bit on the shut side of square, so they can really rotate and turn their body and deliver that club at a certain angle and take off a little bit of loft so they can hit that 8-iron 170 instead of 145. We look at that, and the key is that the players that are able to do that, it isn't so much about the swing, it's that their body can handle that. And the discussion there became, look at Ben Hogan, who was in a horrific car accident and then played some of the most incredible golf of his career. And one of the things from that book was, he always said, boy, I wish I had 3 right hands to hit this ball. And the reason is because he actually swung a little bit flatter and he let the club face open up a little bit more. And now you're going from the better players and you're going to, the 3 handicap of the club that says, I'm really working on Dustin's position at the top. And you're like, you'd be better to fan that club wide open going back and then slam it shut as hard as you wanted to coming through, because your body will allow you to do that. So Hogan's book is as relevant now as it is, or as it was when it came out, because golfers that are out there are looking for a way, I need to swing harder and faster at it. And let's face the facts, when you start getting 40 and 50 years old, your body isn't working faster than it used to, but your hands and arms still have some speed in it. And all this, now there's a lot going on where players are looking and going, you don't see guys on the senior tour trying to do DJ's move. No, that club opens up a little bit going back so they can slam it shut going through. Now, we've lost half of the golfers out there, but the point of it is this. Your body's going to tell you what you can do. And the beauty of Hogan's book is he wanted to do 2 things. He wanted to play top quality golf, and he wanted to get rid of a hook. And if you are a better golfer, there is one shot you hate to see, and it's a hook. And now understanding a little bit deeper of what Hogan did on the backswing, now you hear these wonderful things like, I can swing at it as hard as my body will let me, and the ball is not going to go left. And that is a blessing for players that are single-digit handicaps, because the shot that usually kills them at the end of the day is a hook in the woods.
Oh, yeah. I get it. Not that I'm one of those players, but I get it. It's the one you're gonna remember, not the great approach shot. Wow. Well, dude, it was. Thank you for reporting on that. I'm so glad you were able to bring back some really great stuff from it. That summit, fascinating. Are you going to be at the PGA Merchandise Show this year?
Fred, I will be down there, and I'm actually going to do some speaking for the PGA of America. And are you going to be down there perusing the aisles for clubs that will hit it further? Let me remember my numbers right. Usually it's 354% further and 187% straighter by the time you get this glove, that pair of socks, and this special ion organizing necklace, this new. Are you going to be down there?
I am. This is the first time, but I am coming this year.
Oh my gosh. Then
travel restrictions, depending on travel restrictions and all that, right now I'm scheduled to come.
If you are doing anything live on campus, then you and I are definitely going to get together for a little bit, even if it's have 5 minutes, and tell us what is one golf item you saw out there that you absolutely can't live without.
Well, that's what I'm going to be fascinated to see. Is it depressing or is it exciting? Because there's so many people coming out with these products that you're just going, you're not going to make it past this show. It's just not going to happen for you. I'm sorry.
Well, and I think the thing you will, and when I was younger, and boy, we're going to date ourselves, but I used to call it record store amnesia. When you went to Virgin Records or FYE or Specs, you'd walk in and you think to yourself, man, I got to get that new album from Foreigner, and I really want to get that Led Zeppelin album. And you take 2 steps in the door and you look around and you go, I forgot why I came here.
Right.
And that's exactly what happens in the PGA show. You're really excited to see this, and you all of a sudden you look around and you go, oh, good Lord, where's my list? I forgot why I'm here. It's sensory overload.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I will definitely coming. I'm definitely hoping to come, but if I do come, I'm definitely bringing recording gear with me. So I would love to do a tour with you on video and have you looking at products and like, raising your eyebrows or rolling your eyes at various products.
That's a done deal, and we'll make sure it happens.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great. All right, Joe, thank you so much for your time. Happy holidays. I look forward to seeing you in January, buddy.
You got it. Have a great holiday. And again, you know what, Fred, you make this game fun, and you pick good topics and questionable guests, like the one you had today, to talk about them. But thanks for what you're doing for the game of golf, because I hope everybody that listens, and I know they do, they pick up something each podcast.
You're way too kind and self-deprecating. Absolutely.
Stay well, my friend.
Today's episode intro was provided by a longtime Golf Smarter listener and a trusted contributor of ideas for episodes, Stuart Morgolis. Stu, thank you so much for being there and always making great suggestions. Now, Stu is now eligible to win a box of balls with the Golf Smarter logo, and you could be too. I'd really like to have you introduce a new episode in 2022, so let me hear from you. Please click on the Hey Fred button at GolfSmarter.com or DM at GolfSmarter on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and let me know that you'd like to do an intro on our next episode. I'll assign you an episode number, then you call our toll-free listener line to record your show open. It's like a 2-minute process total with you sending me the email. I mean, it's really not hard. Now, for every 10 golfers who participate, we'll have a drawing for the exclusive Golf Smarter branded golf balls. Your chances of winning are tremendous, as there's only 10 names in each drawing. So again, DM at GolfSmarter on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or click on the Hey Fred button at GolfSmarter.com and you'll be eligible to win. And as we conclude our 16th full year of weekly episodes of Golf Smarter, that means it's right there on the calendar. It's holiday time, and it doesn't mean we're taking a break anytime soon. Hopefully, Golf Smarter has become a trusted companion and resource in your quest to conquer the hardest shot in golf, as we have people like Joe Hallett on the show. Got an email this week from a regular listener who was complaining about a past episode that felt more like an infomercial than a vehicle to obtain some helpful golf insights. Now, I've never hid behind the fact that many of our guests have a product or a service they're looking to get some exposure for. But instead of trying to get just a sales pitch, My goal is to identify an issue that is common to golfers and then introduce a potential solution that they've created. It's their solution. As someone who approaches this podcast as a student and not an expert, we both know that not every episode is going to connect with every listener. But what I can guarantee is that if you don't like it, wait till next week, because we'll probably hear a completely different story. That's why I say that we want to be your podcast for caddy that will lower your score and raise your golf IQ. And like caddies and for caddies, we don't object to your gracious tips for our services provided. Now, if every golfer who listens regularly offers a small amount each month, we'll be able to continue providing you with our fun and informative programs for a long time to come. Our tip jar is now open. Just click on donate at GolfSmarter.com. Thank you so much for those of you who have, those of you who are considering, and those of you who are just blowing me off. And, the hardest shot in golf that we're trying to help you conquer? It's the next one. Always the next shot. Lastly, let's get a taste of what's happening last week on our newest podcast, All the F Words, with Gabby Moskowitz and Joanne Green, the lady who intros our show every week. All the F Words features these two writer friends who are 30 years apart in age, talking about what they give an F about. And each Friday, they pick a word that begins with the letter F and offer their unique perspectives from a millennial and a boomer. This week's topic, fatigue.
Joanne, I am so tired today. I don't know what my deal is.
Are you tired or are you fatigued?
What's the difference?
Oh, there is a difference. I'm not going to tell you right now, though, because we go into it on this week's episode of All the F Words. Fatigue is our topic this week. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, All the F Words, and please follow us on social media at
All the F Words Pod. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.